Chris Paul finally tells the world why he retired, and it will shock you. The real reason behind his legendary career ending is finally out.
But let me be very, very clear. Chris Paul does not deserve that.
After 21 seasons and 12 All-Star appearances, the legendary point guard decided to walk away from the game he loved. But what the Clippers did at 3 a.m. changed everything. On February 13th, 2026, one of the greatest point guards ever, Chris Paul, announced he was done. Known as the Point God, he spent more than 20 years running offenses and controlling games like few players in NBA history. But his ending wasn't peaceful or respectful. It wasn't the kind of goodbye a player of his level deserved. Before we get into the drama, the issues with the Clippers, the tension with coaches, and the shocking 3 a.m. decision that had fans going crazy on social media, we need to go back to the beginning to understand why Chris Paul retired this way. You have to look at where his mindset was before the 2025-26 season even started. It was the summer of 2025. Chris Paul had just finished a full 82-game season with the San Antonio Spurs. At 39 years old, he proved everyone wrong. He showed he could still play at a high level and lead a team as a veteran. That he wasn't washed. He wasn't finished. He wasn't just sitting on the bench collecting a paycheck. That he still had energy left, and his performance backed that up. But here's something people sometimes forget about Chris Paul. Basketball was never the only thing that mattered to him. His family, his wife Jada, his son Chris too, and his daughter Cameron were always just as important as the game. For 6 straight years, he moved from team to team: Oklahoma City Thunder, Phoenix Suns, Golden State Warriors, and then San Antonio, while his family stayed in Los Angeles. After all that time apart, something inside him changed. Being away from his family for so long started to matter more than ever, and it was something he couldn't ignore anymore.
The most a year. I just finished my 20th season, which is a blessing in itself.
And that tells you everything about where Chris Paul was mentally going into what became his final season in the National Basketball Association. In July 2025, he sat down for an interview and made it clear to everyone. No guessing, no drama. He said he had 1 year left in him, maybe at most. That wasn't a player chasing records. That wasn't a player trying to hang on forever. That was a man who knew the end was near and was preparing for it. He understood his body. He understood the grind. And most importantly, he understood his priorities. Going into that season, his mindset wasn't about proving doubters wrong anymore. It was about finishing on his own terms.
Yeah, I've been in the NBA for more than half of my life, which is a blessing.
Think about that for a moment. More than half of Chris Paul's life had been spent playing professional basketball in the National Basketball Association. Since being drafted 3rd overall by the New Orleans Hornets in 2005, basketball had been everything. Practices, film sessions, flights, games, pressure, expectations, injuries, rehab. Every single day for 20 years, that's 2 full decades of giving his body, his mind, and his energy to the game. When he finally said out loud that he only had 1 year left, it meant something. He wasn't guessing. He knew the clock was running out, and it wasn't just about sore knees or tired legs. It wasn't only the physical wear and tear of playing in his late 30s and 40s. It was emotional, too. Being away from the people he loved most, year after year, started to weigh on him just as heavily as the games themselves.
It's definitely these years you do not get back with your kids, with your family.
Those words feel heavier when you really think about what Chris Paul gave up during those 6 years away from home. 6 straight years of missed birthdays, missed school events, missed bedtime stories, missed Saturday morning pancakes with his kids. That's time you don't get back. And it wasn't just about his wife and children. Back in North Carolina, his grandmother, the woman who watched every single one of his games, no matter the time, had to cheer for him through a TV screen instead of hugging him in person and telling him how proud she was. For fans, it's just basketball. For him, it was real life happening without him. After 2 decades in the National Basketball Association, the sacrifices started to feel bigger than the spotlight.
So my granny, who watches every single game that I play every single night, those moments, I just don't get to see her and hug her.
And so
When the offseason arrived and Chris Paul became an unrestricted free agent, the decision felt obvious. He signed a one-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers, the franchise where he played some of the best basketball of his career from 2011 to 2017. The team made perfect sense. The Clippers were in Los Angeles, the same city where his family had been living while he spent 6 long years moving from team to team. For the first time in a while, basketball and family could finally exist in the same place. That it was supposed to be the ideal ending. A homecoming, a farewell season, one last run in front of the fans who watched him become one of the most important players in franchise history. It looked like the perfect final chapter. But when reporters asked him directly about the plan, where exactly he would play and how it would all unfold, even Chris Paul didn't have a clear answer. And that uncertainty hinted that this story might not end as smoothly as everyone expected.
I honestly don't know. Seriously, I don't. It's actually a weird place to be in because for my entire career, I've pretty much always known.
For a player like Chris Paul, that kind of uncertainty was unusual. His entire career was built on control. He always knew where every teammate needed to be, when to slow the game down, and when to attack. He ran offenses with precision. Like a coach on the floor, he built his legacy in the National Basketball Association by being the one who had all the answers. So when he admitted he didn't know what was coming next, that meant something. That it was rare to see him that open. Rare to see him unsure. For a man who spent 2 decades directing everything on the court, not having control of his own future showed a different side of him. One fans almost never got to see.
Dude, my wife and my kids are in LA, and I mean, I say this just about every time I talk, but the past 6 seasons, I've played where I was in Oklahoma first.
6 different cities in 6 years. Oklahoma City Thunder, Phoenix Suns for 3 seasons, Golden State Warriors for a year, then the San Antonio Spurs, city after city, team after team, and through every trade, every free agency move, every new locker room and system to learn, Chris Paul kept adjusting like the professional he's always been. But while he was moving around the league, his wife Jada, his son Chris too, and his daughter Cameron stayed in Los Angeles. They weren't switching cities. They weren't packing up every year. They were waiting for him to come home. And after 6 straight years of that cycle, the weight of it all started to feel heavier than any playoff loss or regular season grind.
My wife and my kids have been in LA all 6 of those years, so that's tough.
And then Chris Paul said the words that made everything clear. I love to play basketball, but I love my kids and my family more. That wasn't just something nice to say in an interview. That was his truth. Family wasn't secondary. It was the foundation. By November 2025, reports confirmed what many already believed. This would be his final season in the National Basketball Association. Think about the resume. 12-time All-Star 11, time All-NBA Selection 9, time All-Defensive Team, honorary member of the NBA 75th Anniversary Team. The plan was simple. Finish the season in Los Angeles with the Los Angeles Clippers. Enjoy one last run in front of the fans. Go home to his kids after every game. Walk away on his own terms. That it was supposed to be a storybook ending. But that's not what happened. What should have been a beautiful farewell turned into one of the most shocking and controversial endings to a Hall of Fame career in recent league history. To understand how it unraveled, you have to look inside that Clippers locker room. Late November 2025, the Clippers were spiraling, and that's when everything changed. The Los Angeles Clippers weren't just struggling, they were collapsing. A 6-20 start isn't just a slow beginning. It's a disaster. 6 wins and 20 losses to open a season is the kind of record that creates panic. When a team is losing like that, frustration spreads fast. Confidence drops. Fingers start pointing. And in the middle of it all was Chris Paul. Anyone who has ever played with him knows exactly who he is. He's vocal, intense, demanding. He pushes everyone, stars, bench players, coaches, trainers, to be better. He always has. It's the same leadership style that helped him serve as president of the NBA Players Association from 2013 to 2021. It's what allowed him to walk into any locker room in the National Basketball Association and immediately command respect. But that same intensity can also create tension, especially when things aren't going well. Reports said frustration grew between Paul and head coach Tyronn Lue, along with associate head coach Jeff Van Gundy. The disagreements weren't small. They involved team strategy, practice schedules, defensive schemes, and even Paul's tone in the locker room. And this wasn't an inexperienced staff. Alongside Lue and Van Gundy were veteran coaches like Brian Shaw and Larry Drew, men who have spent decades coaching at the highest level. So, when Chris Paul began pushing for more practices, more team meetings, and offering strategic ideas that sometimes contradicted the coaching staff's plans, the friction grew stronger. What started as competitive fire slowly turned into something much harder to control. Some of the coaches didn't just dislike Chris Paul's approach, they actively resented it. Kendrick Perkins, the former NBA center known for speaking his mind, went on his podcast during a road trip and shared what he'd been hearing from inside the Los Angeles Clippers organization. What Perkins revealed wasn't mild criticism. It was damning, far worse than anything the public had seen or heard before. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a struggling team. It was about internal chaos, clashing egos, and the unraveling of a locker room that once promised a legendary farewell for one of the league's greatest point guards.